Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevin Abajalac, welcoming you once again to the podcast where we help you grow and scale your business. Today, we have an amazing guest with us, President and CEO of Moat Title Security. His name is Curt Moore, and Curt is an expert in real estate. He's a founder of his company, and they focus on asset protection, which is very important. And today he will share with us how you can protect your assets and how you can, go and be more safe in your own business. Curt, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to this very much.
So I would love first to start with a little bit sharing your story. You have a very personal reason why you went into security, right? And protecting the assets and everything. So can you share with everyone listening what happened, what led you to build your company years ago?
Sure, very good. Well, all the way back in 2014, I was working in the oil and gas industry in Colorado, and my mother, she was up into her early 80s. She had suffered some pretty tough medical situations, some surgeries and whatnot, and she really wanted to go home, and we got her home for some period of time. And right during that time we brought her home, she actually had a brush with title fraud. Some character decided he wanted to try to convince my mom to sign a deed to her home over to him. And I just bumped into it. I caught it on her front porch on a Saturday, so I stopped that. But he didn't stop there. He decided I'm just going to forge her name and try to record that. So at the time, I was working heavily in the courthouse, the county records for the county where her property was located. So I alerted them that that would be happening, and we caught it. But that was 11 years ago now. So that was my first experience with this, and that opened my eyes to what the risks are and just how easy it can be for someone to take these types of fraud attempts against primarily elderly folks. My mom is certainly, or was certainly, in that target market for fraudsters to attack. So that's where I got the idea. I actually retired from my career in oil and gas in 2021, moved from Colorado down to Oklahoma to be closer to my wife's mother, who's also getting a little bit elderly. And that's when I decided, I've been thinking about doing something about this for years now. What I did is I created a document that is recordable in the public records that essentially behaves much like a credit freeze. If you're familiar with credit freezes, I freeze my credit. No one can create a new credit card or a loan against my personal credit because I've frozen my credit. And so I wanted to make it somewhat similar to that as best I could, knowing that public records doesn't have three agencies. It has thousands of clerk and recorders spread out across the United States. So I created a document, and we call that the Notice of Title Freeze. It's about a 3-page document. What it does, what Moat will do for a client that owns property, is we will prepare that document specific to that property owner and their property, and we'll record it in the public records. And it's a pretty straightforward document. It simply says, "Hey, look, I own this property. I'm concerned about title fraud. I'm concerned about someone attacking my title. So I'm notifying the public that I'm freezing my title from any further recordings without my express recorded consent." And at that point, that document is going to live in the public records where fraud begins. If someone wanted to attack my mom, they wouldn't know her circumstances and the details of her property unless they researched her property in the public records. So this document will live right there in the public records, shooing away fraud. And if it doesn't shoo away fraud and they do make the attack, that document has very clear instructions and details that state that if something is recorded without the property owners first releasing that freeze, it's fraud. So it's a valuable defense should you be attacked to restore your title. So that's my background of how I got into this idea and how I started how I've catalyze that idea into a product that is market ready. We have a website, we have a CRM, we've got a small agent force, and we're growing rapidly. We're currently in 8 states, and we plan on being in all 50 states just as soon as we can get ourselves launched in there. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, very interesting because often we are not even thinking about the fraud and we do the legal things. We have the title deed, everything. So, can you share with us most common frauds that you see happening or how, especially now with technology? So, what are the most common ways that people are doing the fraud or yeah, most common frauds
Yeah.
out there?
No, it's a great question. It's a great question. People that are making their business around attacking property title, what is going to start that is I'm going to find targets, people that I want to attack. It's generally elderly folks with high value properties and little or no mortgage. Those are generally their low hanging fruit. But that doesn't mean that's the only attacks. There's attacks being made against all types of property, including vacant land and rural land. Um, but generally, what they'll do is they'll build a list of targets. They'll decide I'm going to attack, this group of people. I'm assuming they don't do it one at a time. They're probably doing multiple properties at a time, trying to get one or two to work. But they'll prepare a deed, a quick claim deed or a warranty deed or some type of property deed, and they'll essentially fill it out with the actual legitimate property owner's name as the grantor. They'll put themselves or even another stolen identity on that deed as the grantee, and they'll record it. And that one of the things about public records that a lot of people in the consumer markets don't understand is if I'm working at a clerk and recorder's office, I'm not determining if that's legitimate or not. They're not trained to know if that's a legitimate document or not. They don't have the time and the expertise to snoop out fraud. They're just looking, is it prepared correctly? Is it signed correctly? Is it notarized? And if it is, they're going to record it. So fraudsters take advantage of that and they leverage that. So once they've recorded a deed, that's not going to make them any money. What makes them money is they're going to either try to put mortgages on that in their name or their assumed stolen identity name, or they could even try to sell the property. I think one of the most shocking ones to me that we've got some on our news page on the website is folks will go out there and they'll record this fraudulent deed, and then they'll immediately turn around and offer the property for sale. And they'll put it as somewhat of a distressed sale, like, look, I want all best and highest bids by Friday at noon. I bought this house but I got transferred overseas, so I need to sell this, and I'm not going to be able to deal with it. So give me your best, highest bids, and then you can pick the title company. You'll have a right to inspection. You can do all these things. They make it sound extremely legitimate. Meanwhile, the hook is, but I want to make sure that people are really going to be buyers, not just looky-loos. So I want a 5% earnest money down, and make your check out to some LLC, some escrow company that's bogus. That's them, and they'll get maybe 5 or 10 people will give 5% of $1 million property, and they'll just collect all that, and they're gone. And they never really wanted. No, the funny thing is they're not ever really trying to take possession of the property. They're not going to show up on your porch and say, "Hey, get out! I own this property now." That's not their game. They're doing quick tactics to take legal possession fraudulently and then try to catalyze that with mortgages or, like I just described, trying to sell the property. And then they're gone. They'll take the money and they're gone. The real owner will have a big mess to clean up. It's called a quiet title action. They're going to have to go to court to settle this all out. It's expensive. It takes time. It's emotionally draining. And in the example that I just gave, there's probably 5 or 10 people that are probably going to sue you because they thought they bought your house and they lost their earnest money deposits. So they're out there too. And they're probably a third party that was the party that had their identity stolen, and their name's plugged into this bogus deed, and now they're suddenly out in the wilderness trying to figure out, well, what happened? I didn't do any of this. So these people are pretty ruthless. They'll hurt and damage anyone that gets in their way, and they really don't care if someone's mom is 83 years old and frail and getting mixed up. They don't care. they're just trying to steal what they can steal. So that's hopefully that answers your question there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's so interesting, and we never even think about that someone can. And these days, I think with technology and a lot of things, people can make it, like you said, appear so legit that who would thought, hey, I'm putting a 5% to book this property, and here is the title deed, here is the ownership, ID, everything, and nobody would think stolen title deed or stolen identity. It's just insane. Yes.
Yeah, it's you're right, and it's just I talk to my wife. I say, if these people would, they obviously have skills. If they would just go get a legitimate job, they'd probably be good at doing what they're doing. I mean, they have skills, but they use them to the wrong the wrong way. And like I said, public records that they call it public records because it's public. You have the right to go search certain things in the public records, and it's public information, and it's was never intended to be used wrongfully, but it can be in the wrong hands, and they can augment that by, here's the owner, and also do some social media checking, and they can learn all they need to know to prepare and attack a property owner, a legitimate property owner. And my personal opinion is they're probably attacking 10 or 20 at a time, just get one or two to work. And it doesn't cost that much. It's, to record a deed in the public records is probably less than $20. So they're not putting a lot of money into it, probably not a lot of time into it. And if they get one or two to work, it can equate to tens of thousands of dollars. And then, like I said, they're gone, and you can't find them.
Yeah. So how can technology, Kurt, these days actually reverse, like make the protection better or stronger? Is technology supporting us, or is actually helping those people who want to do the fraud?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question, and I'll answer that two different ways. Our view is, technology is probably not the best way to stop them. There's a lot of services out there that monitor your title, and a lot of counties now will do that actually for free. You can sign up for free, and they'll give you notice that, hey, this got recorded? Is this you, or is it fraudulent? And it's always good to have a heads up. So technology can be a signal that something may have gone wrong here, and you need to get up to speed with it and correct it if it is fraudulent. But our view is, that's reactive. Our view is to proactively stop that by recording this notice of title freeze in the records to, again, deter them from attacking you in the first place. And if they do attack, you're in a much better position to take your case to the courts and get that fraudulent deed expunged from the records. So, the second half of that answer is, how can it hurt you? It used to be back in my early days when I was researching public records, you actually had to go to the clerk and recorder's office and fumble through microfiche files and huge index books, and it was just quite a rigmarole. And the average person probably wouldn't have been able to do that very easily. Number one, you'd have to be wherever the county seat is where you're intending to attack a property or properties, which could be very inconvenient. But over some period of time, the public records have all migrated to digital. And I can literally sit here in my office and research records anywhere in the United States. And, most of the clerk and recorder's offices in the counties and boroughs in the United States, they use similar software. So once you get kind of good at it, it's not that hard to figure out how to search public records, find property owner names, get all the information you need to prepare a deed. Technology, it used to be you'd have to walk these deeds into the office and with a check and hand it to them, and they confirm that it's set up right and it's legal. It's a legal document, and it's signed and it's notarized, and then they take your check and go record it. Now you can do that all electronically. I mean, there's numerous services where you can present documents to be recorded electronically and not have to be there in person, which just makes it that much easier if you're actually being fraudulent to do these things anonymously. So I think in some respects, to answer your question, technology is probably helping the other side more than it's helping. our side. And we just need to be aware of that and be aware of what their tactics are and how they behave and what they're doing and do everything we can to stop them from attacking our
Mm.
property and our loved ones.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Kurt. So, can you share with us what do you see are the most common mistakes that business owners or people who have properties are doing, or maybe something that's make them easy accessible for frauds, or some things they're not aware? So, is there some paperwork they're not filing, or certain things they're not, stamping at notary, public records? Of course, depends on the country. But what are some
Sure.
common mistakes, let's call them mistakes, or things people are doing that make them more available for fraud?
Well, that's a great question. It's a great question. It's not really all that easy to answer, but I'll do the best I can here. I think fraudsters are looking for vulnerable property owners. And again, I think that's generally elderly property owners with high value property and little or no mortgage. And if they can also sleuth out, through social media or other means that, a property owner is, maybe they have two properties. Here's a vulnerable situation. Maybe someone's in New Jersey and they live up there in the summer, warm months, and in the winter months, they don't want to be in New Jersey anymore. So they go down to Florida. They've got a house down there. So they might actually be living in two different spots. Fraud can really present itself in a different way when you're not living in the property, keeping your eyes on it. So if funny mail starts coming, mail to people that, strangers and from mortgage companies, I mean, there's some big red flags that can come out. And again, if they're attacking elderly folks, my mom would be an example. If she was getting strange mail, she probably wouldn't have told me or my brother or sister. She probably would have tucked that in and said, "I don't know what that is, and I don't. Did I do something wrong?" And you didn't do anything wrong. But to answer your question, what can people do to better prepare themselves? Just be very alert. If you do have a second home, have someone keep an eye on it. Make sure that mail comes to your primary address, and you're keeping track of tax notices and all the insurance and all the mortgage action if there is on those properties. Just to keep yourself highly informed. So if someone is or has taken an attack against you, you're quickly aware of it. But in that situation, I would certainly freeze the title on both ends to again deter and better protect yourself from that fraud.
Yeah, thank you. So, as we are wrapping up, which advice do you have for everyone to secure their business investments? What else is there important that we should know, based on this topic?
Sure, sure. Well, again, I think if you're a property owner and you're worried about fraud, most property, I would say generally properties, you're generally the most valuable asset that you may own. Our pricing model is different than our competition. We don't charge a monthly fee. We charge a one-time fee to freeze a document. One thing I need to mention, when you freeze your title and you legitimately want to go get a loan or apply for a credit card, you need to unfreeze it or it's not going to go anywhere. You've got it stopped. And our product does the same thing. So when you freeze your title and say I've got my title frozen here where I live, if I want to sell my home or if I wanted to change a mortgage out on my home, I need to record a release of that freeze to let the title closing occur. So I'd be aware of that. But again, our model is generally based off my experience with my mom. We want to make our product different, proactively defending property from title fraud, and we want a more human customer service element rather than chat robots and 1-800 numbers. So we want to have local agents, home office agents. Once you are connected with someone at Moat, that's the only person that you're going to be talking to. You don't have to go through a gauntlet of 1-800 numbers trying to figure out who am I talking to today if you have a question. And again, our pricing is one time. You pay for a notice of title freeze. You may never need to do anything for 8 or 10 years. There's nothing left to pay for. We're not going to keep taking a monthly fee from you. So I'm not sure if I answered your question there, but if I need to follow up on that, please
No,
just
no, that's absolutely clear. And that's a great tool that you guys came up with to, have that step in place that nobody can just go and, forge your documents and title deeds. So that's amazing. So tell us just how can people connect with you? What is the website of the company?
sure.
What's the best way to reach out to you if anyone interested would like to have this in place?
Sure. No, no. We've got a website. It's moattitleSecurity.com, one word. We've got a ton of information on there about our products. Primarily, I've talked all about our notice of title freeze. We have one other product that we've got out there. We call it the notice of occupancy, and that's to protect property owners from unauthorized people that are basically squatters. It's a squatter block. Folks that just move into property and then claim they have a right to be there. That's becoming more and more prevalent in the United States, remarkably. So there's information on that document for folks that have multiple properties, or again that two properties that they live in. They go back and forth on. But the website has a ton of information about our products, our pricing, and our customer service. We've got a news section that has a lot of recent articles across the United States of how these types of attacks occur. We've got you can there's multiple places you can reach out to agents. We've got an info at Moat Title Security. If you have questions, you can fill out what's called a Moat check and just check to see if your property is in a serviced area, and we'll do a quick title check on it and get in touch with you. We've got a office here in Oklahoma City. So we want to be as available and as accessible to our clients and prospects as we can. So, and we think we've got that, but always looking for people to tell us it could get better if they've got advice.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today with us, Curt.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
really appreciate the time.
Yes, and we invite everyone to check your website. Make sure to protect your assets, be aware of the frauds, and protect yourself because you work so hard for everything you're building. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please give us some likes, share this episode with at least one more person that's going to benefit from it, and leave us some comments. What else would you like us to talk about and how we can help you grow your business? Thank you for listening, and I see you in the next episode.